Welcome to the Emotional Balance Sheet Podcast, your guide to help you manage life, money, and multiples. Each episode, host Paul Fenner, Tama Capital's president and founder, and the proud parent of 4 amazing children, including 1 set of triplets, will provide insights on successfully sustaining an active lifestyle, career, and family through comprehensive wealth management strategies, financial education, and lifestyle planning, specific to parents raising twins, triplets, and more. Learn more, subscribe to the show, or connect with Paul at tamacapital.com.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of TAMA may retain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
Have you ever wondered what life would be like if this opportunity had come about? Or what would happen if you did not take that job? As we know, the world works in mysterious ways, and part of that mystery is having conversations about the joys of the journey. Michael Duffy thought he was going to be working for GM some 40 years ago, but as fate would have it, the job offer fell through. So instead of working for a big corporation, a career in college athletics began. Coach Duffy talks through his journey of being a grad assistant to now the athletic director at Adrian College. Michael has been instrumental in growing the sports programs at Adrian to a combined 50 men's and women's teams. In addition, he helps to oversee and support 1,300 student athletes and a full-time staff of 84. While the expansion of the sports program at Adrian College has certainly been built with an underlying business model, there's also been a focus on the student athletes' academic, mental health, and community responsibilities. Coach Duffy and I also discussed the impact that parents play in being supportive or overly involved in trying to develop their kids as athletes. Please enjoy my conversation with Michael Duffy. So, Michael Duffy, welcome to the Emotional Balance Sheet Podcast. And for the viewers out there, or I should say listeners, I will probably refer to you as Coach because that's how I've known you for, God, how long has it been?
A long time. We won't put a number on it. How's that?
Well, I graduated in 98 from Adrian College, where you're now the athletic director. And so that was 23 years ago, if my math's right. So I started there my freshman year, but we knew each other well before that, I think, too, because of me growing up in the Adrian area. So
Correct.
But so I think the best place to start is to walk our audience through kind of like who you are, your background, like how you started in academia and then how you ended up in athletics and now how you are now running this growing Division III athletic department at Adrian College.
Well, first, thanks for having me on. Excited to talk about not myself, but what we do here at Adrian. I went to school at Adrian. I started in 1978, so some 44 years ago, I think. Went to school, played football, did okay, was on an undefeated team. We had the best 4-year record in kind of in modern day history, I guess you'd call, for football. So had a great career there. Actually got a double major in business management and I had a BS in mathematics. Had a job coming out of college. So in March of my senior year in 1982, I had a job with General Motors. I was going to be in their modality department. And I took the last month and a half and said, "Whoa, I'm all set. I don't have to worry about anything." And mid-April, the person who hired me had a very bad heart attack, and God love him, he passed away. And so I got a call. I got the call, and it was like, "Hey, everything's on hold. We don't know what we're doing. We got to redevelop. We got to reorganize." So I ended up without a job. I was pretty devastated, but I happened to talk to Coach Heckard, and I had him for class. I had him for a theory class of sport, and I was doing really well, and it was fun, and it was more. He brought sports people in just to talk to us about sport. And in the 70s, sport was just kind of starting. Yeah, we had professional sports, and we had the the normal sports, I guess you call them, your baseball, your softballs, your soccers. And so we had a lot of conversation. I know one of the Illiches came in, big Detroit sport market, Little Caesars, all that stuff. He came in, young man back then, and just talked about the sport world, and it intrigued me, and I had great conversation, and Tom pulled me aside and he just said, you need to go into athletics. You get it. You know what's going on. And I said, well, I got these degrees, in business and math. And he goes, math is useful in anything, and business is the world. And so I came back in the fall. I took one class, and I helped coach football. Well, in the meantime, Tom left and went to Cleveland to be a scout, and Ron Labadie took over. So Ron said, yeah, you can still stay on and be a GA. And so I worked with Ron, his tenure here. But I got into a master's program at the United States Sports Academy in conjunction with the University of Southern Alabama. So I spent 2 summers down there. Got my master's degree in sports administration in '85. Met my wife at Adrian, dated her from like '81, and I finally bit the bullet, and we got married in '85. And she had a great job with Jacobson's here in Jackson, Michigan, at the time, the corporate office. And so I said, well, you know what, I'm going to stay on and I'm going to help football. And my first contract at Adrian College, I think I made $9,000, and I was equipment manager, assistant football, and helped with some of the other sports that didn't have full-time staff. And that's how I started, and I grew and just took on things. I was young, I was energetic, I was hungry. I always used the Emmett Smith thing. It was like, feed me, come on, give me more to do, and I'll do it. And I was on the ground floor of the Maryland Sports Center. And
I remember what a big deal that was for the entire small city of Adrian when they decided to build that.
Huge. And it was a beautiful building, still standing today. I mean, and people come in and say, well, when was this building built? And I tell them, 1988. They look at me like, no way. There's no way this building was built in '88. There's no way. And I go, yeah, it was. We take care of it. So I was on the ground floor. I built that building. That was exciting. I ran the building for a long time in the 90s. And then, of course, Ron left and Henry Mensing took over as the athletic director, made me the assistant athletic director. I was assistant head football coach under Jim Lyle. And it just kept growing. Jacobson's closed their doors. My wife ended up jumping on at the college. And here I am today, still at Adrian College. I just started my 38th year at Adrian College, and love every minute of it. Been very exciting, very intense the last 16 years under Dr. Docking. I keep saying, feed me, and now I'm going, no, stop, I'm full. Got enough on my plate. But it's been exciting. It's truly been, I've spent probably $60 million in the last 15 years building facilities and starting new sports and watching young people grow and smile and shake their head at me like, wow, I can't believe we're doing this now, and so it's been exciting. Never felt the need to leave. Adrian College has been more than gracious to me. They've taken care of me, my wife. My son went to school here, got an undergrad and a master's degree in sports administration. Silly person. He is
couldn't talk him out of it.
No, he's now the sports information director at Trine University. So competitor, but makes interesting conversation when he comes home. Because Matt Land and I, the athletic director at Trine, very close friends. I and my son comes home and says, Dad, we're the same as Adrian. And I go, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, the president, our President Brooks and Dr. Docking are the same. It's just our president is Dr. Brooks is Southern based and Jeff is Northern based. So you got the country Northern spot there. And he says, Matt Land could be your younger brother. And I said, yep, that makes interesting phone conversations at home when he brings something home and says, oh, Dad, I can't believe this coach is doing this. And I go, yeah, sounds familiar. I got about 20 of them that do the same thing.
So I think where I'd like to pivot, Coach, is for those that don't understand, and this gets really emotional for me growing up in Adrian and seeing the transformation of the school. And, there's politics on either side of like how the school's developed and grown. And we're going to stay out of that today. We're going to stay out of that conversation. What I want to do is focus on you and how you have built a athletic powerhouse, if you will, with the diversity of sport. So and specifically what I'm talking about for my audience is that you think of the traditional sports, baseball, football, basketball, those were the centerpieces of most sports. But when Dr. Docking came in, 16 years ago or so, there was a mindset shift change where we're going to start doing things different, and we're going to start bringing in different sports to bring in new kids. Can you walk us through what those initial conversations were like, and then now how it springboarded into all these sports? And obviously I'll link back to the college page and the sports page to really show all the diversity of sports that are at Adrian College now, because believe it or not, for our audience, bass fishing is actually a college sport, and one that we just won a national championship at Adrian College, correct?
Huge. There's 900 and some collegiate teams across the country. I mean, and it was brought to us by a board member who slipped me an article out of the Kalamazoo Gazette paper and just said, here's what you should start. And it was half joking. And I'm an outdoor guy. I like to fish and hunt. I'm not very good at it, but I love being outdoors and I love doing it. And I looked at President Docking. I said, this might work. This might work. And it has. We have 33 anglers on our team. And it's just incredible. But back to your original question is, when Dr. Docking came, as an old football coach, we used to recruit numbers. We used to hold ourselves to a goal. We wanted to help the college, and the college was struggling back in 04, 03, 04, 05. We got to the low of about 800 students here. And I know when I went to school in the 80s, we were 1,100, 1,200 students, pretty consistent. And we had dropped, and it looked like we were dropping. And President Docking came in, and we had great conversations. And I was excited that he gave me the keys to the so-called cottage, soon to be a mansion. Didn't know it was going to be a mansion at some point, but and we talked about it. And the biggest thing that I told him was, look, we can't sustain any athletic program if we don't have full-time coaches. At the time, we had 6 full-time staff. Some of them were coaching 2 and 3 sports. And how do you recruit when you're coaching all year round? There's no time to recruit. And so Jeff's whole plan was a business. Look, this is a business plan. And we hate to say that our students are commodities, but they are. I mean, they're what we need. We need students. We need a lot of them. They're going to pay tuition. They're going to pay room and board. They're going to be active in our community, both in our Adrian, Michigan, and when they graduate, they're going to hopefully give back and support Adrian and send kids here. And so we've got to start from the ground level and figure this out. And we did. And we made a business model. And look, we're going to hire coaches. They're going to be in charge of their sport. They're not going to be in charge of coaching 6, 7 other different sports or doing things. They do help run the athletic program, so they all have secondary duties. But basically, they're going to recruit. They're going to coach their team and give a good experience to that team. So if you fast forward 16 years, now I have 50 programs, teams as I call them, 50 teams, men and women. I have 84 full-time staff. That's head coaches, assistant coaches, and support staff. I have 10 facilities. soon to be 11, maybe 12. We got a couple on the books right now that we'd like to get into. So we've definitely grown over the past 15 years. We've gone from 800 students. We're currently at about 1870-ish. And we have another 100 or so grad students. So we've kind of reached our goal of 2,000. So I think we got board meeting tomorrow and Saturday. I think we'll probably push that, and say, all right, what do we want to do next? Do we want to try to grow to 2,500 and see where it takes us and go from there?
So, I remember having this conversation with Jim Mahoney, who's, AEC grad as well, who's now back, which I'm glad, at the college, in talking with him, like when this expansion really started, talking about math, and you being having a math major, there's a specific equation that you guys came up with as far as the business model goes that says, okay, if we bring on this sport, it equals X amount of kids and it costs X amount to run. What's the ROI? And that was one thing that I think that really impressed me, was that you weren't just expanding to expand. There was a lot of thought and business know-how or thinking behind I'll call it strategic expansion. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. I have probably in my drawer right now, I probably have 8 sports that we could look at. And Jeff always asked me, Mike, what's our return on investment? What do you think? How quick can we pay this off? And some sports are no-brainers. For example, men's volleyball. Well, we had no investment in it. We had a gym. We had volleyball nets because we had a women's team. All I had to do was hire a coach. So let's be modest. Okay, $40,000 for a coach, and buy a few extra balls and some uniforms. Let's say modestly that's $10,000. So that's $50,000. And now he's got to recruit. Well, you can't play with less than 6. So let's put a goal of 10 on him. He gets 10 kids the first year, and let's put a conversion rate on our students. We feel the average student's going to pay around $20,000. Okay, 20,000 times 10 is $200,000, and I only spent 50. My return on investment's already made, and I haven't even put them on the floor yet. So we do that. I do that with every sport that he asked me to do. I put together a financial on it, kind of what we need, how we need to get it. Some sports have taken us a little longer to start. For example, we need fields. To start rugby, let's say, and we started rugby this fall. We hired a coach last year, and we converted a grass field into it, and hopefully eventually we'll get another field. But it's a strategically I always hire a coach the year before, so the coach is here for 6 to 8 months, and all they do is recruit. They're going to bring a team in. So last year at this time, I hired my rugby coaches. They stayed on for a full year, hired, and then in August we started men and women's rugby, and they both had full teams, and they're currently playing right now. And our men's rugby teams, number 1 or number 2 in our region. We're behind Marion and Indiana, but we beat Michigan, we beat Notre Dame, we beat Michigan State. That are all they're in D1. It's rugby has divisions, Division 1, Division 1A, and then Division 2. And since we were a new program, we started in Division 2, but we've beaten several Division 1 programs. But that's our coach. He went out and recruited. We said, hey, if you're going to have to recruit 20 kids because you got to play with 15, go get the best ones you can. He got some from Utah. He got some from New Zealand. He got some from Argentina. He got some from Jamaica. So he went international, and that's where they play rugby. And I hate to say it, we're awful damn good in the first year.
That's incredible. And just for a point of reference for our audience that may or may not know this, so Adrian College is a NCAA Division III school.
Correct.
Which means you don't the school, not you specifically, coach, but the school is not allowed to offer athletic scholarships, correct?
Correct. We're NCAA Division III non-scholarship. And so our NCAA athletes are not allowed to get any athletic grant and aid. Actually, our student athletes are not to get anything that we don't give our normal student athlete, or otherwise it's an extra benefit is what the NCAA calls it. So we're some of my non-NCAA sports, they get a little upset with me because I hold them closer to the Division III rule than they probably care to be. But we're a Division III school, so we're going to monitor that philosophy and what we do. Now we might give some grants and aids coming up with sports like e-sport.
I definitely want to come back to e-sport. That's one topic I want to talk about.
E-sport, bass fishing, men's rugby is not an NCAA sport. And we might do a few scholarships with them. We're currently talking about it. I'm working with the NCAA. And there's some nuances that we'll have to be careful. Like, if I give a rugby kid, say we give him $500 to play rugby, that he can only play rugby. He can't play an NCAA sport. And we have to watch that and kind of chart that. So we're in preliminary talks of that and just trying to see if we can get, some e-sport players or help some of the guys in the bass fishing with some of the other schools that are given little incentives for kids to come.
So my point to that is when a student decides to come to Adrian, whether they play a sport or not. So let's just say they assume they're going to play a sport. They are, in essence, a student athlete. They're a student first and athlete second. Is that
absolutely?
You want to expand on that a little bit, Coach?
Yeah. We sell it. We preach it. They have academic benchmarks that they have to reach, or they don't get to play. Plain and simple. If they don't go to class, coaches are very notorious for holding them out of practice, for not going to class. So it's very important that the students go to class. It may seem small, but we want them at a 2. They have to be at a 2.0 cumulative GPA, and they have to be earning credits. And it's in the student catalog, and I can't verbatim, but they have to each year benchmark to a certain number of credits so that they graduate in 4 years. And they got to have 124 credits. And now with all the master's programs, some of our students are staying on. The NCAA is coming through with, there's legislation on the board right now where we can almost, it's not a red shirt, but in Division III, we don't have a red shirt, but we may have something like a red shirt in Division III because all these kids are taking 5 years to graduate anyway. So we could have them practice all freshman year and they'd still have 4 years left. So that's kind of on the table right now with the NCAA, but it's still academics. They still have to make progress towards a degree. They still have to maintain a 2.0. That's minimum. And you know what? I have 1,300 athletes out of the 1,800 students. And I'll tell you what, they're very, very, very good students.
So is it, I'm going to do some math there. 1,300 over 1,800. So that means 72% of the student body at Adrian plays some type of sport. So when it comes back to the student, the academic part of that, is that where, when you're looking at coaches, that's a major component of them as a coach, like being able to manage the academics of their student athletes?
Absolutely. They have to have, not only do they have to show me they have competency in their sport, I want them to show me competency in taking care of our student athletes, and that's academically. Sometimes that's financially. Sometimes we've got to help our students figure out, look, this bill goes to you. It's not going to your mom and dad, even though mom and dad might be paying the bill. You've got to keep track of it because you're now the adult. You're 18 years old. you have responsibilities. We're going to go to you. We're not going to go to mom and dad. And we want to make sure that your grades are taken care of. Your mental health is good. And you're being involved, not just necessarily in football. I want all my sports teams to do at least one community service project per semester. So if I have 50 teams and each of them do a community service project each semester, that's 100 community service projects. Athletically, we have to track it for the HLC. They want to know what you give back to your community. And we do about 9,000 hours a year in community service, back to the community of Adrian and the surrounding areas. And that's something that I want my coaches to be well-rounded in. They're coaching baseball, football, cornhole, esports. Doesn't matter what you're coaching. It's all the same. You're going to recruit, you're going to retain, you're going to be a mentor, and you're going to make sure you're going to be a financial guy. You're going to be an academician. You're going to control these young kids' lives. And our whole goal is they graduate in 4 years. And I guess now you got to say, we want them to graduate, whether it takes 4 or 5, because some of them will graduate in 5 and have a master's degree, because we have a lot of 4+1s and those kind of things. And it's a great opportunity for young people. And today kids need to be busy. If they don't, their mind wanders in good ways and bad ways. And we want to keep them occupied and doing things that they enjoy.
So actually, that's actually where I wanted to pivot to next is, from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing today with student athletes? Because obviously with the change in world dynamics, social media, mental health, what from your perspective, Mike, what are you seeing are those biggest challenges from a student athlete?
Yeah, COVID has changed the world, whether we like it or not. And I think the disease itself is starting to come a little bit under control. But people were shut in for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And these young kids, they're not used to that. They're used to being out and about, and to be locked up, not literally locked up, but being confined and not being able to do their normal routine hurt some of them, mentally. And the biggest thing, and we had a speaker last night, his name's Bob Delaney. He was a former state police officer in New Jersey, went undercover, did a sting operation for 3 years for the mob in the New Jersey area, came out, became an NBA official, was a top NBA official for 20 years. But he talks on post-traumatic syndrome and the biggest thing, and I've heard him talk 3 or 4 times, and I always get something new from him. But the one last night was, mental health is big, and people need to understand that. But what they need to also understand is people need to talk. They need to find that person that they're very close with, that they trust, and talk to them and tell them things that maybe you're not telling other people. They say, oh, that's a therapist. No, you don't necessarily. Some people probably need a therapist. I'm not taking that away. But some people just need to talk. They need to get things off their chest. They need to say some things and have somebody say, that's good, you got it off your chest, but maybe you should handle it this way. Or that's great, but don't do that, if they tell you something really bad. But the biggest thing that I got from it was he talks to a lot of military people that come back from war and battling for us in our country. And the stress necessarily isn't just on that military person. It's on husband, wife, son,
the whole
daughter.
family.
Yeah, they're stressed too, because they don't know how dad's doing. They don't know, is he alive? Is he ducking bullets? Is he, dodging mortar shell? All that stuff. Is he hand-to-hand combat? And then they come home and they're different. Well, yeah, they're different. They saw some things that they don't want to talk to the wife and the kids about it. They don't want to share that, so, but they got to find that person that they could share that with and at least get it off their chest. And from what Bob was saying last night, in his 40 years of doing this stuff, it helps people navigate what they're doing. It doesn't cure them, but it gives them an avenue to vent and let things and get things off their chest.
Do you take an active role in talking with student athletes about their social media presence, or is that, or are you having conversations with coaches about having conversations with the student athletes about, social media presence and what's going on online, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, you name it, TikTok, I guess TikTok. I'm trying to keep up on all these because I know my kids are going to be starting to ask questions about these platforms soon.
Yeah. As soon as the parents start getting into TikTok, they'll come up with something new. The kids stay one step ahead of everybody else. We talk a lot. I talk to my coaches and we try to monitor the best we can. And we tell them to be, you got to be professional. I don't know how many times I've not hired somebody because of something that we've seen on Facebook or we've seen a post they've made or something, and it's inappropriate. I don't want you leading my program if I go to your Facebook page and you got a hat on and you're drunk and you're holding a beer and carrying on and doing something. I mean, that's something for private. Don't have it out on public. And we try to teach our kids that, employers do look at that stuff.
They sure do.
Because companies are all about social media. I mean, we got the big NIL going on, name, image, and likeness. And we have some student athletes that have signed some contracts with one was Just Strong Clothing. And this young lady gets, 20% off anything she buys, but she gets 10% on anybody that buys off her platform from this company. And so now she's got to be careful what she posts and what she says, because now it directly affects not only her, but her now employer, Just Strong Clothing. And so, it's very important that the kids understand that you got to have that private sector, and that's fine, but be careful that because once it's out there, it's out there. You can't bring it back. It's not going away, no matter, even if you take it off, if I captured it, I can still post it. I can still send it all over the place. So we talk about it, and it's more management. It's we're supposed to stop people when they post. I can't control 1,300 athletes and what they post. I'd never sleep if that happened.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Because they're doing most of their posting from about 11 to 3 in the morning. So, and believe you me, I'm at the age now, I need to sleep at that time. I can't be up running around at that time.
So actually coming back to esports, I remember being at an alumni board meeting. It was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, Coach, when you brought this up, and like, wow, that's fascinating. And I see it now. My triplets, are soon to be 11, and that's all my boys do right now is game. So talk to us about what this esport thing is. What is it? Like how is it turned into a NCAA, sport?
Well, one, it's not quite to the NCAA yet.
Okay.
There are some conversations with it. And I believe esport, bass fishing, cornhole, some of those sports like that are probably not going to get into the NCAA anytime real quick. They're run by organizations that, they pay money. Our bass team wins money. Now, they do run it right, where all the money they win, the check is made out to Adrian College. And so the money comes to the college, then we disseminate it to the team, and then the coach can take care of the kids that have won it and do some things. But it just kind of controls it. Same way with the sport. It'll probably be the same way when we start cornhole next fall. But esports it's crazy. I went and watched Rocket League. Okay. And please, I don't know what I'm saying. My son looks at me and he goes, "Wow, for not knowing a dang thing about it, Dad, you sure talk like you know what you're talking about." And I go, "Well, that's half of my job is I just got to sell it, get somebody in here that knows what's going on. And then I turn it over to them. I'm not going to manage them." But we put 37 units in one of the library conference rooms and made it our esport room. And Coach Vinny Granado is our esport manager. And we have right now 28 people in our team, and they play, I think 7 or 8 different games. And they're on pretty much almost every night right now. And they play, there's a whole.
What are those games? Like, can you give us a couple of specifics maybe?
League of Legend, Rocket League.
Rocket League. Is that like the soccer one?
With the cars. With
the cars, yes.
Yeah, they play soccer with the cars. There's some first shooting person ones, Leagues of Legend, and a couple other ones. There's a new one out, Star Beta or something. I don't know. You're asking the wrong dude if you want me to name.
No, that's okay. I think that gives me enough insight.
But it's as anything, it's amazing to me some of the kids that are just that talented. I mean, I don't care if it's esport, I don't care if it's bass fishing, I don't care if it's football, hockey, I don't care what it is. The passion and excitement, not only for their sport, but the interaction they do with the other sports. For example, our men's rugby team and our men's baseball team, NCAA, which I was shocked that Coach Rainey did this, but the rugby team came out, men's rugby, and there's so many internationals. They pitched and let them hit and field ground balls, and they showed them how to catch and hit and throw. And then they turned around and the rugby guys showed the baseball team how to play rugby, got them in the scrum and pushed them around and showed them how to, they do their lateral and they run the ruck and all that stuff. And for an hour and a half, you'd have thought these kids were 6 years old, just playing together in the sandbox. And, we try to get more teams to do that, softball and ice hockey, show them how to play softball, and the girls can get you on skates and show you how to play hockey. But what a great way to intermingle the staff, intermingle the kids. Now you got rugby kids going to baseball. You got them going to soccer, and then you got, baseball going to the rugby matches. And I mean, it's just, that's how you build a family, and that's how you build what we got going here. And that's why it's so special.
That's awesome. So kind of along those lines is kind of wrap up our conversation is I've got a lot of parents that listen to this podcast. Obviously, my situation with my triplets plus one, and I deal with a lot of families. I look around and there's a lot of parents that I don't want to say put pressure on their kids to spend time playing sports. And obviously there's a big money factor in it. Like growing up in rural Adrian, like a lot of the stuff that we have today living in a metro area like Detroit just wasn't available. And now I look around and there's travel baseball, there's travel soccer, there's travel hockey. And then that's on top of all the school sports, and there's club sports. Can you walk us through maybe what you deal with parents and trying to, force isn't the right word, but push kids towards athletics and maybe both a healthy and unhealthy way. And, I think some parents have this mindset. I'll leave it at that. I want to say maybe delusional mindset that their kids are going to get to a Division I athletic program and have scholarships, and that's how they're going to pay for college. And I try to be realistic, listen to those advertisements. I think from Enterprise, 1% of all athletes, play in college or something like that, or play Division I sport in college. They get a scholarship.
Correct. There's one, not everybody's going to get a scholarship, plain and simple. That's just the fact of the world. And you're right, about 1% of all high school graduating seniors that play athletics are going to get a form of scholarship. 1%. And you figure there's, in the state of Michigan at 900 schools, there's probably 90,000 kids that are going to graduate from high school. Now, not all of them are athletes, but say half of them are. 45,000. So you figure 1% of 45,000, it's not a very big number. They're going to get scholarships. But yet a lot of them are going to go on to school to play college athletics. And Division III is as good as any one of the others, Division I or Division II. Now, there's a talent difference, of course, but our students can play the sport and do all kinds of other things across, and we support them in their academic endeavors, or we've got kids that that play in the band. We got kids that do theater. We got kids that are biologists, and all across the board. The biggest thing we get is not every parent. A lot of parents get it, but some parents try to live vicariously through their students, and sometimes those students rebel, and they're playing because mom and dad said you should play, and then they get here and I have the hard conversation with mom and dad. Well, look, little Johnny hasn't been to practice in 2 weeks. So I think you need to talk to little Johnny on why little Johnny's not playing, because we don't know. And you know what? It's not our job to go chase him down. If you want to play, then show up to practice and be there. But I think, everybody will have an opportunity. Yes, it's competitive. Even at Adrian College, it's competitive. We can't take everybody on the hockey team. Now, I have 7 of them. Okay.
I was going to say, you have a lot of hockey teams.
But, everybody wants to play the NCAA team. And if they can't play the NCAA team, they want to play in the club Division I team. They don't want to play the Division II on the men's side or the Division III. They want to be where the glory is. But, there's as much glory in that Division III team and as much pride in that team as there is in the NCAA team. But the NCAA team has the NCAA over the top of them, and that shows clout. But every one of my coaches understands they all want to win. Every kid wants to win. But you know what? In college, there isn't a prize unless you win it all. And sometimes I get a little frustrated with local youth programs because everybody's got to get a medal. Everybody's got to get this. No, you still, that takes away, and it makes our job harder at our level, because now they're all expecting to get something and they go for the season. That's not the real world. You don't get a bonus if you don't sell a single, pen, if that's what you're trying to sell. If you don't sell any, they're not going to give you an award for not selling anything. You're probably going to get fired, and I think sometimes we teach our kids the wrong things when it comes to athletics. And athletics is great. I have more employers knocking my door down. I go, look, I got a 4.0 student over here in math department. I know them really well, but they don't play an athletic program. And they're like, no. I'll take your 2.5 kid. And I go, tell me why. And he goes, 1, he's played 4 years of a sport. He knows discipline. He knows how to win and lose. There's and when our kids lose, they got that grit and determination that, doggone it, we're going to figure it out. We don't want that to happen again. And that's what they want in their sales force. They want people that are battle tested. And that's what we give our athletes. I was teasing the Andrea Milner, who's our vice president for academic affairs. She was on the field the other day. We gave an award out to one of our faculty members. We do a student spotlight and a faculty spotlight every game. we give an honor to one of our faculty and one of our best and brightest students. And I looked at Andre and I said, hurry up, we've got to get off my classroom. This football field's my classroom. And we're just as important as the academic classroom. We teach our kids just as much as they do in the classroom. They're teaching biology, chemistry, math, history, theater, band, whatever. We're teaching discipline, ethics, hard work, being on time has consequences, working together as a team, any sport. Look, I can't go to the right, you go to the left, we got a problem. We all got to go to the right. Then we all got to circle back to the left. And we are just as important as an academic class. But academics is still why you're here. You're paying to get that education. But you got another classroom that will build and teach you even more. And it's exciting to do it every day.
So typically, Coach, I only have one closing question, but I'm gonna surprise you on this one. I'm gonna have two. And my first one is, because I've been thinking about this throughout our conversation, is I think the job of being athletic director is really fascinating. And so what's been the most interesting part of being as an athletic director over these years?
The most gratification that I get over the years is when young men and young women that graduate come back like you, that have triplets and a fourth. And you come up to your coach and you look him in the eye and you go, you know what, when I was here and you made me run those 40s and you made me do this and I had to be to practice on time, I did not like you. But you know what? I do exactly the same thing with my kids right now. Thank you for teaching me the discipline and the organization that you taught me, because I use it every day in my daily life. And to see kids come back to me and stand in front of me and say, you don't realize how big a part of my life that you are in, even though I don't say your name every day, even though I don't refer to you every day, but the way I run my life, the way I run my family, the way I love my family, I embrace my family, how my family is important, because that's what we teach every day. It's family. And my friends are the ones that I was in the trenches with every day. And, in football and baseball and, and I shared the highs and I shared the lows. But I didn't realize it when I was in school. I realize it now. That I think is the most gratifying.
So that's a good lead into my final question, which is, I know we've talked about your son a little bit.
We didn't talk about this before, so we must be on the same wavelength, because I've led you into the right thing every time.
You still got it, Coach. You still got it. So my closing question for all my guests, and you've talked about your son and your wife, what is the best thing about being a parent?
I think the best thing is I've been kind of show them, stand back, watch them grow, and I think now I'm enjoying the fruits of that. To see my son come home and talk to me about his job, and it just happens to be my job, and I have a sports information director under me. I actually got two of them, and to hear him talk and then talking through it, like, okay, here's how you want to handle it. Go to your boss or go to your coach and talk to him this way, and don't get upset about it. Yeah, you got knuckleheads. They're going to come to you at 11 o'clock at night. He was home the other night, and a coach called him at 11 o'clock, and, well, I need this up now. And he's like, okay, I'll do it first thing in the morning. And of course he calls the AD, and the AD ends up calling my son. And I'm like, don't get mad. It's 11 o'clock at night. Don't get mad at your AD. You go in the morning and you talk to him and say, hey, when is the clock off? Kind of thing, and have that conversation. So I think it's fun to see him grow and reach out and do things with them. And I think that's the neat thing about being a parent. And to be honest with you, I have 3 or 4 or 5 younger coaches that have young children, and I don't know. I must be a grandfather already because they all love my office, and I love them. I would, I'm a family guy. You got kids, bring them up into the office. I don't care. And they start running around my office, and of course, they're typical parents. Oh, don't do that. He's busy. And I'm like, leave them alone. Get out of here. We're busy. He's playing down there with the balls or whatever. Leave him alone. He's not hurting a soul. And so I think that's the important thing. And I preach family. And I think family is the most important thing. And I've got a loving wife to put up with me and my job. I was here until 9:30, 10 o'clock last night because we had the speaker, and I had to introduce and do closing remarks with them. And, that it's been my job for 38 years. So, to have a special wife and a child that accepts that and now does it, dummy that he is, but, he makes a living at it.
Well, Coach, you are a incredibly special person, not only to myself, but to thousands of people in the community around Adrian and alumni and current students. So this has been a wonderful conversation. And I think you provide a lot of really unique insights to what it is to be an athletic director and be involved in college sports, not only from a business perspective, but as you've really stressed, from a family's perspective as well. So I can't thank you enough for the time. And I always enjoy getting to have these conversations with you, and look forward to the next one to come.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. And anytime, conversation, I think, is something that lacks in all our lives today. I mean, too many people use this. And I was telling a coach this morning, I walked out there and there were 12 kids out there all sitting, within inches of each other, and not one of them talking to each other. They were all doing this.
And by this, Coach is referring to being on their phones.
Yeah, absolutely. Being on their phone, tapping away. And, I think it's healthy to have conversations. And my kids, a lot of my kids, they're kids, young adults. When they come in to talk to me, I make them leave their phone with the administrative assistant. And now you got to talk to me. You don't get to look down at your phone and do whatever. You got to look me in the eye, and we're going to have a conversation. And it's pretty neat to see them grow and how they change when you get them to converse. And that's what it's all about. We can learn from everybody. I learn every day. And I tell my wife, the day I stop learning is probably not a good day.
All right, Michael Duffy, thank you very much. And like I said, I'll look forward to our next conversation soon.
See you on campus soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Emotional Balance Sheet Podcast. Please visit tamacapital.com to subscribe to this podcast or to connect with certified financial planner and registered investment advisor Paul Fenner of Tama Capital. And please join us again next time on the Emotional Balance Sheet Podcast.